Sure, we can disable the interior cameras for you. I did have one additional question on the breathing masks when you have a minute.
Go ahead.
Here when the burn initiates, and we'll get some updates from the teams and the crew on board. Bob Benkin and Doug Hurley should get some calls based on how the burn is going. And then, of course, at the very end, we want to be looking out for those words nominal burn or good burn. And counting down, we should be 1 minute away from this burn. "30 seconds to the burn." Less than 10 seconds standing by for confirmation that the burn has started. And so we're seeing data this burn has begun. Again, this is the close burn. And so we're seeing data this burn has begun. Again, this is the close burn. We are expecting these Draco engines to fire for about 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes total. So the burn has begun. We'll continue to get status updates on it throughout.
The 4 forward bulkhead Draco thrusters. And like I mentioned before, we use these primarily to help Dragon in the delta velocity maneuvers that, require bigger changes. There are a total of 16 Dracos on Dragon. The other 12, so we got the 4.
Burn is just to raise the lowest part of Dragon's orbit, the perigee, up until we'll be on what's called a co-elliptic orbit. So our orbit is at a lower altitude, but it maintains pretty much the exact same lower altitude as the International Space Station. So we'll be on an elliptical orbit, so not a perfect circle, but we'll be at a steady 10 kilometers lower than the space station itself. And this will be the third of those 5 burns.
Well, everyone, welcome aboard Dragon. My name is Doug. Next to me is Bob. You probably know him. We're so glad to be with you this evening and welcome you on board Dragon. Got a couple things we want to talk about first before we kind of show you around. The first is kind of a tradition we've had over the years with spacecraft going way back to the Mercury era. And then a tradition that's been carried on ever since with all our space vehicles, including the Soyuz. We're given the honor to name this capsule. I know most of you at SpaceX especially know it as Capsule 206, but I think all of us thought that we could maybe do a little bit better than that. So without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We chose Endeavour for a few reasons. One, because of this incredible Endeavour NASA, SpaceX, and the United States has been on since the end of the shuttle program back in 2011. The other reason we named it Endeavour is a little more personal to Bob and I. We both had our first flights on Shuttle Endeavour, and it just meant so much to us to carry on that name. That's what we decided to go with. So we hope you enjoy that name, and once again, welcome on board.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard Endeavour, the SpaceX vehicle headed to the International Space Station. Today, we accomplished the first flight off the Florida coast in quite some time, and Doug and I were really proud to have an opportunity to be a part of that. We're doing it in a brand new spaceship, a spaceship that's a lot different than its namesake Endeavour, the space shuttle, in that it has touch display screens that allow us to accomplish most of the interfacing requirements that we have. We'll have if Doug pans over and points at the display in front of me, you can see the forward view that we had during the maneuvers that we most recently did. You can look out the window. It looks like the centerline camera doesn't have a lot of content on it now. We're kind of pointed into space so that the windows can see the Earth below us. But we've got the capability to interface with the vehicle, and it's kind of interesting. There's a command. This little button over here is actually what the commands are for our displays. One thing that does get lost is there is a extensive button panel down below as well. So over on this side, we can turn the displays on and off, as well as send some commands for some contingency situations. On the other side, we have the ability to deploy chutes and things like that on entry. So we do have some buttons, but the primary interface is these displays. So nice, new, modern cockpit that we've got for our compared to our namesake, the Space Shuttle Endeavour. I'm going to migrate a little bit away from our seats here, and Doug from his seat is going to continue to try to follow me so you can tell what can be seen from the seat that he sits in. So from his seat, when he is inside in the vehicle, strapped in, this is what his view actually looks like. You can see a window off to the one side. We each have a window that we can view out and see what's going on outside. That was exciting on ascent for us to be able to see the arm rotate away from the pad, and that's when we both, I think, knew that we were going to launch today. So that was super cool. I've got one on my side as well. The hatch that we came in is the hatch that's right behind me. It is a little bit of a tight quarters, but I'm going to try to demonstrate some of the capability that we have now that we're in zero gravity. So I think I was requested to do a backflip. I'm going to kind of do a side spin, which is a little bit of a permutation on that request. Okay. So hopefully you can see what it's like to actually float in zero gravity, and Doug and I are super excited that we got the opportunity to do this again today, even before the end of May. So that was super cool. We did, it turns out, end up with one stowaway on board our vehicle when we launched today. It was not just Doug and I who accomplished the launch here. We do have an Apatosaurus aboard. We both have two boys who are super interested in dinosaurs, and we collected up all the dinosaurs between the two houses, and Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, got the vote from the boys to make the trip into space today with us. And so that was a super cool thing for us to get a chance to do for both of our sons, who I hope are super excited to see their toy floating around with us on board. I'm sure they would rather be here given the opportunity, but hopefully they're proud of this as well.
Okay, as we work our way towards one of the windows, unfortunately it's getting a little bit dark, but I don't know if Bob can pan over here. We just passed off of the coast of Newfoundland, and we're headed over to over the Atlantic right now. I don't know if you can get a good picture of that. Anyway, hope hopefully enjoy that view as we pass over the Atlantic. And I think with that, we will work ourselves back into the seats and wrap things up for this evening.
So Doug's there making a nice big smile for the camera. I hope you enjoyed the trip today with us on board the Dragon capsule Endeavour with our friend Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, and Doug and I. We just would like to thank SpaceX, we'd like to thank NASA, and we'd like to thank the American people for the opportunity today. And we're really proud of the entire team that was able to accomplish human spaceflight again from the Florida coast. Just a wonderful experience. Doug and I are just so proud to be a part of it, and just want to thank everybody who gave us this opportunity and worked so hard to make this happen today.
So with that, I think it'll be good night from Capsule Endeavour. Good night to everyone at NASA, at SpaceX, and the United States, and congratulations to the teams that got us into orbit. And we're looking forward to seeing Chris Cassidy and his Russian colleagues on board the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
I don't know about you, Leah, but I will probably be able to watch that tour of Crew Dragon many, many times. That's totally cool. Be sure to tune back in when you wake up, because Bob and Doug might be waking up as well. But we will be here throughout the evening. Of course, we have friends in other parts of the country, or excuse me, the other parts of the world. You know, if you're British, or if you're German, or if you're Japanese, you know, different times of day, everyone's waking up. And I think that's something really cool about this particular broadcast, is that everyone in the world at some point in their day will be awake for the Demo 2 mission and tuning in. So yeah, on that note, let's do a little bit of a mission recap for our two dads in space to wake on up. They've chosen a particular song to be played as their wake-up anthem. We don't know what it is just yet, so be sure to tune in here on our webcast in a few hours, about 8 hours now, in order to hear it first. We round everything out with a final co-elliptic burn to once again maintain the constant orbit beneath the station. This time it'll be at just 2.5 kilometers below. And then we'll get into the approach initiation and final stages of Dragon's rendezvous with the space station. Now this is really excited because when we get into those integrated operations, we transfer control from Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne over to Houston. So that team, that switch over, those teams will transition to integrated operations roughly 45 minutes prior to approach initiation.
Yeah, and so during that approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston, as you mentioned, to activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system, which stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles. And that also sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground and giving an additional command capability to astronauts on the station. They'll also maneuver Dragon to the proper altitude and initialize the navigation sensors used for the methodical approach to station.
At approximately 5:27 a.m. Pacific, Draco thrusters on Dragon will fire for the approach initiation burn when Dragon is about 2.5 kilometers below station and just about 7 kilometers behind it. So at this point, they're getting close. I would say they're probably visible from the station at that point, like
yes,
making eye contact.
I would think so.
Yeah. And at that point, that maneuver will swing Dragon up until it is about 400 meters or a quarter mile directly below the station.